Appreciate it.
Thanks, Jerry.
All right, so can both sides come together and get a deal done? Can we reach a grand bargain? Joining me now, Republican Congressman James Lankford of Oklahoma. Welcome to the show, or welcome back, I should say. You've been with us before, Congressman. You know, we were talking a little earlier about how Democrats are trying to make the point that the president's in charge. He won the election, people voted for his worldview, and now you got to do what I say. That seems to be what he's saying. How do you respond?
Well, it's a fascinating worldview. Honestly, the president was reelected, the Senate was reelected, and the House was reelected. So I have 750,271 people in my district that elected me to represent their voice. So they didn't elect me to represent the president's voice. They elected me to represent theirs. And so that's still my responsibility. That hasn't changed.
Well, I think a lot of people in Congress feel exactly like you do, but how do we skin this cat? I mean, you can't do it exactly the way the Republicans want necessarily. You can't do it the way the Democrats want. Is there some kind of middle ground here?
I can tell you the frustration is that we really expected the American people to settle this during the election time. So there was a lot of stalling that happened in the last year to say, we're going to wait, the presidential election is going to resolve this, we're going to have a different Senate, or we're going to have a different president, we're going to get those resolved. We didn't. We had the exact same formula. So you're right. We have to come together, but it does not mean that we have to compromise and just go to the president and say, what do you want to do? We still have the exact same principles.
Well, and you know, it was a little like Groundhog Day, waking up on the day after the election, you know, House in the same hands, Senate in the same hands, White House in the same hands. But we're getting some rhetoric now that I think is way over the top. I want to read you what Richard Trumka said, the AFL-CIO president, about the fiscal cliff. He said, take what the media are calling the fiscal cliff. There is no fiscal cliff. What we're facing is an obstacle course within a manufactured crisis. Congressman, you're on the Budget Committee. What do you say to that?
There are three elements to the fiscal cliff, and it's very real. Those three elements are pretty clear. One of those is that all the tax rates from the last lame duck time period, they extended tax rates from the lowest to the highest for 2 years, then they'll expire. So every single American's tax rates go up in January. The second part of it is that all the spending cuts that we've got to do. Spending has increased $1 trillion in the last 5 years.
Isn't what
tax
happened
rates and revenue,
that the stimulus spending actually got baked into the pie?
It's huge.
It's
huge.
And now it's permanent.
Well, in 2008 with the TARP vote and then in 2009 with the stimulus vote, both those were supposed to come together and be a one-year anomaly. It's not true. It is baked in the pie now on that. The third aspect, though, no one talks about with the fiscal cliff, and that's the Obamacare taxes. They start after the election. The way they were put in 3 years ago is as soon as the presidential election was over, they would kick in. So what the president keeps talking about, those people making over $200,000, he wants to raise tax on them. Those taxes are already going up with Obamacare taxes. Interest, capital gains, dividend taxes all go up 3.8%. Your payroll taxes all go up as well for everyone making $200,000 or more. So what the president wants is two tax increases at the same time on the exact same group. We're saying that's insane, that we shouldn't do that.
All right, but it could be even more taxes. I mean, let's face it, today on Capitol Hill throughout Washington, there's conversation about a carbon tax. Are you kidding me? A carbon tax? You know, there's a lot of conversation about that in California. How real could that be?
That's not real. The House Republicans, I can assure you, are not going to go for a carbon tax to go try to legislate through this. We've already been through the cap and trade scheme. Even the Democrats couldn't pass the cap and trade scheme 3-4 years ago when they had control of the House and the Senate. So I know there are people trying to throw this out and say this is another way to do it. That's absurd. We're not going to do a carbon tax.
Well, the rumors are that Republicans are being offered a lot of money, a lot of campaign dollars to get on board. Do you believe they'd go for it?
No, I do not believe they'd go for it because the basics are we're very, very close to being North American energy independent. The tax formula that we have right now and the technology that's online in our exploration, those two combined right now are providing us the closest moment we have ever had in the modern age of being completely energy independent, at least for North America, for us. We don't need Venezuela. We don't need North Africa. We don't need the Middle East. If we can just finish out, we are 21% away.
Apparently the energy industry didn't need the president because they did it on their own. But let me take you to a slightly different topic here, and that's the FHA. The Wall Street Journal reporting tonight that the FHA has exhausted its capital reserves and that it will need a tax infusion for the first time in 78 years. We're talking another bailout here. Do you think we should do this? Is there any way around it?
We need a massive restructuring. We're dealing with FHA. It's the same thing as the post office is dealing with Fannie and Freddie, is dealing with one after another. This is the situation of mismanagement for years and years and years on this, and assuming we can throw it in there. If you'll remember, a couple of years ago, FHA was required to take on more of these bad loans and is pushed on that to compensate for what Fannie and Freddie weren't doing. So now we have the results of that. You've also got, at the same time, the Federal Reserve that's buying $40 billion a month of mortgage-backed securities trying to prop up the housing market. So Fannie and Freddie, FHA, and the Federal Reserve are all trying to prop up a bad housing market right now, and this is the consequence of that. The American people need to get real reform.
It is a consequence, Congressman, but would you vote to bail out the FHA?
Well, right now I've got to look and see how we can reform FHA. That's the key for us, not just throwing good money after bad.
Well, we've done a lot of that. That hasn't worked so well.
We have.
Congressman Lankford, thanks for coming on. It's always a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you as well.
Now we want to know what you think. Here's our question tonight. AFL-CIO President Richard Trump